Alright guys, welcome back to the combo guide for the new Odion stuff, the new Apophos, Odion, Anubis, Man with the Mark stuff. I'm not quite sure how to call this trap deck, but I'm going to show you here the combos that you have to understand. It's not really a combo deck, but I will show you all the new cards so that you understand what to do with them. I will also show you a deck list. There will be two combos here, also timestamps and the deck list where I show you the different options that you can use. We are playing this together with Primite as I think this is the most efficient way to play it. This is more like a control deck in the classical sense that you want to grind out the opponent with advantage over time. But now let's start and understand what the new cards do and what you can do here. We already have one new card here with this Anubis, the Last Judge. A level 10 fiend effect cannot be normal summon set, must first be special summoned from your hand or graveyard, while you have 3 or more cards in your graveyard with different names that are Temple of the Kings and or traps by placing 2 of them on the bottom of the deck in any order. Not super important because the important effect is you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard for cost at 1. The Man with the Mark from your deck to your hand, which is the more important effect. So we are going to start here main phase 1 and we will need another trap. This can be the Apophos, the Swamp Deity, an old card which if you summon it you can negate cards on the field up to the number of continuous traps you control until the end of the turn, and this is then also a monster level 4, level 6, but it can be any other trap. So we sent him in order to grab the Man with the Mark. The Man with the Mark is a new card here, level 4 spellcaster. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can take one Temple of the Kings or one spell trap that mentions it from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. And while you control Temple of the Kings, this card and Apophos monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. We are going to go normal summon the Man with the Mark to add the new Treasure of the Kings, because this card mentions Temple of the Kings, and we will see Temple of the Kings in a second here. This is an older card. This is the new field spell, very strong. When this card is activated you can set one Apophos trap from your deck. This card's name becomes Temple of the Kings while in the field zone, so after this we control Temple of the Kings, which makes our the Man with the Mark stuff live, the protection effect basically. And it says once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on your field or a trap in your graveyard, you can add one monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand. This is why we need this additional card here. Once again, this could also be a spell card, but can also be a trap card, so we can activate a Treasure of the Kings effect. So we activate a Treasure of the Kings, and then we are going to use this effect to set the new Apophos, the Serpent, also a new card. Special summon this card as a normal monster, Reptile Earth, level 4, attack 1/6, defense 1/8. This card is also still a trap, and then you can set one Apophos trap from your deck to the field. Normally you will set this Apophos, the Swamp Deity. It can be activated this turn, so the card you just set with Apophos the Serpent can be activated that turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Embodiment of Apophos, which is also an older card that you can play. It's kind of a brick, but we won't play it here. So we set this other card in order to make the second effect of the Temple or the Treasure of the King's life. Once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards, you can add one monster that mentions Temple of the King. We are adding the new Merciless Scorpion of Serket. Cannot be normal summon or set, must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing one level 10 or higher monster from your hand or deck while you control Temple of the Kings. Remember, this is Temple of the Kings. And then we can also add a Temple of the Kings or a spell that mentions it from a deck to hand. So here we can activate this in order to banish from our deck Nibiru. You could also, and you will see this in the other combo, banish this Anubis, the Last Judge. She's also level 10, but here we can, for example, banish Nibiru to summon the Merciless Scorpion of Serket. And the Merciless can now add the original Temple of the Kings. This is the old card, which is a continuous spell. You can activate one trap card the turn it was set, is the most important effect. And then you can, in theory, send one Mystical Beast of Serket in your monster zone. And this card you control to the graveyard to special summon one monster from your hand or deck, or one fusion summon monster from your extra deck. This is not the one that is being mentioned here. This is an older card. So the important effect of this is you can activate one trap card the turn it was set. We will use this in a second here. Activate Temple of the Kings, the old one. And now we can activate one of our set cards here. We are going to activate Apophos, which can now be summoned as a monster, and can set another Apophos, the Swamp Deity. And remember, we can activate this Swamp Deity. This is also important on the opponent's turn. So let's say we have not used this Temple of the Kings in order to summon this, but have just placed this, then obviously you can activate this on your opponent's turn, and you can also activate this Apophos, the Swamp Deity, that you have set with Apophos, the Serpent. And once again, this will negate cards on the field up to the number of continuous traps you control. In this case, if you summon this one after the Serpent, you would have 2, right? So you could negate 2 cards. So we are also summoning this one because we can via the Serpent's effect. And now we have 2 traps here, which we can use to fusion summon into our new Divine Serpent Apophos. Very strong card. It needs 2 monsters that mention Temple of the Kings, and both of our here Apophos guys mention the card. So we can make this, must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by attributing 2 Apophos monsters. We have not make this with Temple of the Kings, but we have make this with this effect by attributing 2 Apophos monsters, because both of these are Apophos monsters, as you can read in the name. And then it says once per turn you can target up to 3 Apophos traps with different names in your graveyard and set them. So we can always recycle our used Apophos traps that we can use on our opponent's turn and then use it again. This is why this is kind of like a grind control deck, and why we are playing this with the Primite stuff. Obviously we can also reset Drill Beam over and over again, and this has the additional effect that once per turn if a trap card is activated, obviously we are going to do this, you can target one card our opponent controls, destroy it. And now we have 2 bodies here that we can turn into a link play after we have reset our Apophos the Swamp Deity and Apophos the Serpent here. So we reset both of them for free, and then we can make a link play. This time around we go into Silhouette Rabbit. You can also make an SP, and this can set another card, the Statue of Anguish pattern. This is an older card. Special summon this card as an effect monster, and then if summoned this way, this card cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effect while you control another trap card that is a monster. And if a card is special summoned from your spell trap zone to the monster zone while this card is a monster, you can target one card on the field, destroy it. So we can summon this guy, and then every time we summon something from our spell trap zone, we can in addition destroy another monster. And keep in mind that Silhouette Rabbit also has the effect that if a card in the spell trap zone is special summoned to a monster zone, you can target one spell trap your opponent controls, destroy it. So what we have here is target one spell trap from our opponent, destroy it. We have this destroy one monster our opponent controls. We have this destroy a card on the field if we summon either the Apophos or one of these swamp deities here. So let's pass over to our opponent to understand how this would work. So for example, in the draw phase here, we could activate this Serpent. You would normally activate the Serpent if you do not have Apophos the Swamp Deity already here. I am playing 2 in this deck, so we have them already. But if, for example, you don't have them on your field yet, then you could activate this Apophos here in order to set the second Apophos the Swamp Deity to have it ready, basically. Because at this point, the Swamp Deity could negate 2 cards, right? We also can activate the Anguish pattern here in order to have it live, so we can destroy cards on the field once we summon these swamp deities here. And let's say our opponent, I don't know, main phase, he goes main phase and summons a monster here. It doesn't have an effect, but it doesn't matter. Then we could activate this deity here in order to negate something. We negate, in this case, we would negate a card from our opponent. And then we could also use the Anguish pattern statue in order to destroy, for example. Keep in mind we have the second Apophos, the swamp deity, that we can also summon and then negate even more cards in this specific combo. Yeah, we slow down our opponent, and then on the next turn, what we would want to do here is we would want to use our Apophos traps in order to go either into a second copy of this guy, or you could make, I don't know, a link monster, for example. An SP would also be a possibility. And because we can once again use our Divine Serpent to reset our Apophos traps, thereby grinding our opponent out. This is the idea. And if you combine this with the Primite stuff, you would see this in the deck profile. This is very strong. And let's take a look at this, what we are going to do if we start with the Man with the Mark. I also show you a different way to use your level 4 bodies here. So we are going to start the Man with the Mark here, activate the effect in order to grab the new Treasure of the Kings. We play this thrice, very important card obviously. Treasure of the Kings sets always Apophos the Serpent, and then we need our second set card from the hand. We are playing a lot of them, so you will see this in the deck profile. And we once again grab the Merciless Scorpion of Serket. Once again, this is not pretty complicated. We this time around send the Anubis in order to once again grab the normal Temple of the Kings, activate the normal Temple of the Kings, and then we can use Apophos in order to be summoned and set our Swamp Deity once again. And we can then use these level 4s here to make an XYZ play, for example, into a Gallant Granite. And then Gallant Granite would be able to search the Nibiru that we have not used in order to summon the circuit. This time around we use the Anubis, and you can also search this Nibiru to slow down your opponent, obviously. And these two bodies here are useless now, so we can now make the Silhouette Rabbit once again. You could also make the SP once again if you wanted to, or maybe a Masquerina. Set the Anguish pattern, and yeah, we are passing over once again, establishing the Anguish pattern here, and then yeah, we would do it the same way like we did it last time around. Our opponent is going to pass here, we are going to stop him, and then once again we could use two of our Apophos traps here. We would summon them. Obviously you would have already summoned them on your opponent's turn to negate something, so you have them on the field already, and then you can once again go into your fusion summon guy to reset your Apophos traps, and yeah, thereby grinding your opponent out of resources. So this is an additional option that you can just use your level 4 bodies to go into a rank 4. In this example, a Gallant Granite. You could also go into Dugaris. It depends on what you want to do there, but this gives you the additional Nibiru interruption. Okay, now after you have understood how this works in theory, let's take a look at how a deck list could look like if you want to bring. We're playing this Gemini Elf here because we have the Primate Lordly Lord. We are combining this with Primate. You don't need to, but you can. So we are playing this one Nibiru, which I think is a nice option to grab it via the Gallant Granite, as you have just seen. Also a send option for the circuit. We are playing one Anubis, the Last Judge, to find the man with the mark. You could play more Anubises if you want to, yeah, have better access to your man with the mark, which gets you access to the Treasure of the Kings. This is also an option. You have to get a feel for how you want to play this, how many copies of this. Then the circuit is actually optional, so we could also not play the circuit, not play the Temple of the Kings, but then you would not make your Divine Serpent Apophos on your turn, but then you would just set, for example, the Serpent, and then on your opponent's turn you have this negation still live. This is also an option if you want to not play these bricks. Then we are playing a Primate Dragon Ether Barrel. We are playing one because our best normal summon is the man with the mark. You can play more Ether Barrels, maybe two. You can play more with the man with the marks. You can also play only one and more Anubises. So once again, the ratio is kind of how you want to play it. You have to find out the perfect ratio for you. But we definitely want to play triple Primate Lordly Lord because this can just grab us the Drill Beam anyway without us using this normal summon Ether Barrel here. But yeah, we are playing the Primate Engine as an additional way to get more resources onto the field, and we are also playing this Gemini Elf because it has 1900 attack, and we can use it as fodder for our Gallant Granite, for example. You can play even more XYZs if you wanted to. You could also play Blue Eyes if you don't want to use your normal summon in order to go into the XYZs. There are a lot of different options that you have right here. You could also combine this with Fiendsmith in theory. But yeah, we are playing one Ether and then two Men with the Mark. Then you have some hand trap lineups here. I'm playing Fuvalosses as well as Maxis and Ash Blossoms, and we can play a Pot of Extravagance. If you play a pot, then you definitely want to bump up the Apophos to 3. Otherwise, you don't need 3 necessarily. In theory, you can only play 1 because you can use this over and over again. It's once per turn, not when it is summoned, but I think 2 is a nice option here. Then we are playing triple Treasure of the Kings. There's definitely a 3-off. We always want to see this. There's a triple Tactics Talent. Do with this what you want. Once again, you don't need to play this Temple of the Kings circuit thing. You can also not play it, but then the combo obviously changes a bit, and then you can do less on your turn. Primate Lordly Lord, then you can play, because we have a lot of exotic space here, Super Polymerization, whereas also we are playing these targets here, the Predator Plant here, then we have the Dragostapelia, we have Secretarian Dragon, the new card against Dracotail and against Branded. We have an Exxon Kicker that we can play against Psychic stuff, also an option here, and we have obviously Garura and Mud Dragon. We have a lot of space in our exo deck, so we have this theoretical option to play this Super Poly here. Also having more spell traps is nice because once again you have seen this in the combo. To activate the Treasure of the King's second effect, we need to set cards. So yeah, we don't want a lot of hand traps because we can't set the hand traps to activate the Treasure of the Kings. We want more spells and traps. Then we have this Primate Drill Beam here, obviously, and then the Anguish Batter statue, which also you cannot play. You don't need to play this, but this is a cool way to get more interruptions on the field and have the rabbit live. You can also obviously just use the rabbit in order to set the Apophos. I think this can set the Apophos. Let me quickly read this. I can set one continuous trap from your deck with a specialized monster. Yeah, you can also set the Apophos here, so I think the rabbit is pretty much a no-brainer. We are playing 2 Apophos and then 2 Serpent. You could play more 3/3 if you wanted to. And then we have the opportunity, and you don't need to do this because they are ultra rares, I'm aware, to play the Dominus cards. We can play Impulse, we can play Purge, and we can also play Songs of the Dominator just to have more traps in the graveyard. This is also because with the Songs of the Dominator we don't want to play as many hand traps because once we have a monster in the graveyard they cannot be activated anymore. But yeah, we can play the Dominus cards. Keep in mind that there are some conflicts here. This conflicts with Earth, for example. This is why we also play 2 Dominus Impulse only, because this conflicts with our Man with the Mark and our Primate Dragon Ether Barrel here. But also this is very useful because we can just go in second set them, then they help us activate Treasure of the Kings, and then we can use them on our opponent's turn. But once again, there are different ways to play this. You can check out deck lists after this deck has been established. Obviously, this is one option that was very popular in the TCG, playing it like this, but you can also play it differently, obviously. And then we have another card, Verdict of Anubis, that you can play as a one-off. It's a counter trap when your opponent activates a spell trap card while you control 3 or more other spell traps, which is very likely. Negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then if you control Temple of the Kings, once again this is Temple of the Kings, if you control Temple of the Kings you can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the total original attack of those destroyed monsters. So in theory this can kill the opponent, but this is just a super strong counter trap that you can play as a one-off, obviously. And then once again, Anubis, the Last Judge. We have our super poly targets here. We have our Divine Serpent Apophos. Once again, if you don't play this pot here, I think you can also play 2 of them. Then super poly targets, we can play the Star Slayer, makes sense in such a grindy control deck. Then we have the Gallant Granite and our Divine Arsenal Zeus. You can just make the Granite attack and go into Zeus, for example. SP makes sense, the Rabbit makes sense, and we have 1 Link Spider. But once again, there are different ways to play this, different ratios. You cannot play these here, for example. You can even play more hand traps if you wanted to, but keep in mind that you kind of want to have spells and traps. You could also play imperms if you don't want to play this whole Dominus line up here. It's your decision basically, but you want to have a lot of spell traps so that you have your Treasure of the Kings live. And this is my Odion Apophos combo guide. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you like the video, please consider subscribing, hitting a thumbs up and the notification bell. And guys, we will see each other in the next one.